dignity.
Karanja wants to do more research on caregiving and is looking at how other diseases like HIV interact with dementia. Mark Silver, NPR News.
And today on our podcast, Here and Now Anytime, a deep dive into the achievements of the Artemis II mission as the 4-person crew prepares for Friday's splashdown, Scott, in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Southern California. Get ready. TV's on.
I'll be watching. In today's episode, Indira, NASA's chief exploration scientist, talks about the remarkable images from the moon's far side. That's Here and Now Anytime. Find it in your podcast app or YouTube. Search Here and Now Radio.
I'm Morning Edition host Jeff Bossert, inviting you to check out Virginia On Demand, a weekday podcast from Radio IQ. It features the news and featured stories from our newsroom and contributors. You can hear the latest in politics, culture, and other highlights every morning before you get your day started, and it's free. Listen to Virginia On Demand on our website, radioiq.org, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Support for Radio IQ comes from Community Foundation serving Western Virginia. For more than 37 years, the Community Foundation has worked to enable people who love their community to easily give back. Learn more at cfwesternva.org. And by P.R. Sturgill Fine Jewelers, offering antique and estate jewelry repair, restoration, sales, and purchases since 1965. Locations in Radford and Wytheville. Online at prsturgills.com.
I think the White House and the Pentagon are going to try and milk this for as long as they can. The success of this operation is cinematic, and the rescue of an American airman are dramatic. But in the end, look at what you're left with. You're still left with the Straits of Hormuz closed, economic hardship throughout. You're still left with a hard-lying government that thinks it's winning.
I'm Rachel Abrams. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
Beginning at 6:30 on Radio IQ.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and from the Music Emporium, guitar sellers for more than 55 years, celebrating the enduring presence of music made on the front porch and center stage. You can learn more at themusicemporium.com. And City Space Productions, WBUR's creative studio for custom podcasts that tell a brand's story to ignite engagement, reach new audiences, or establish thought leadership. WBUR.org/creative studio.
From NPR and WBUR, I'm Indira Lakshmanan in Boston.
And I'm Scott Tong in Washington, D.C. This is Here and Now. The world is waiting to see if President Trump will follow through on threats to destroy Iranian civilization, as he posted this morning, and to bomb power plants and bridges there tonight. Now, targeting Iranian infrastructure could harm civilians, but Politico is reporting the Pentagon has made a list of energy targets that serve both civilians and the military. There's an argument that these so-called dual-use targets are acceptable under international law. It comes at a time when the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, finds himself under fire for his conduct of the war and his leadership more broadly. Paul McCleary covers the Pentagon for Politico, and he joins us now. Hi, Paul.
Thanks for having me.
What have you learned in your reporting on the Pentagon's list of energy targets in Iran?
Yeah, I mean, there's always been a pretty extensive list of targets that the Pentagon planners have had for Iran, right? But they've mostly been military targets in keeping with the laws of war. What they're doing now is producing this list to give to the president, should he choose to bomb them, of sites that, are dual use, energy, oil, gas, electric plants, things like that supply Iranian military bases, but also by default supply civilians, right? So there's some debate here in the Pentagon, from what I understand, over how much harm this would cause civilians and how much they're really dual use, and how far do you take this, right? Like water desalinization plant could be hit, right? That's dual use. The military also drinks water, just like civilians, but that would really hit the civilians hard. So there's some back and forth within the building over how far to push any such strikes on civilian targets.
Yeah, and under international law, I gather it's a question of proportionality, right? Balancing these things, civilians and military goals. When it comes to destroying freshwater plants, bridges, Is there discussion among uniformed members about possibly refusing orders that may be illegal?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, all members of the military have sworn an oath to the Constitution to follow legal orders from the President of the United States, and I don't think there would be much of any hesitation, especially by senior commanders, to refuse an illegal order. But that's where we get into kind of a gray zone here with some of these sites, right, that would supply energy sites that would supply both civilian and military purposes, right? They are legally valid targets, but you're also causing civilian harm. So there's a back and forth there, and there's a weighing of options. But if it can be proven by military lawyers and other people doing the targeting that they are primarily military targets, they would be legal orders.
Now, speaking of military lawyers, I understand Pete Hegseth reduced the number of those lawyers and reduced the office whose job is to limit civilian casualties in war, yeah?
Yeah, one of his first acts when he came into office last year was to essentially fire the JAGs, the top military lawyers that advise the commanders from all the combatant commands, and advise him and other top commanders. He fired most of them, replaced them with new JAGs who still follow the law of war, but they also clearly know that they could be fired with or without cause. And he also last year gutted the office of civilians who study targets, help the targeting in the targeting process, but also advise as far as civilian harm. Right? They do. They have a sense of where people live, what the patterns of life of certain neighborhoods, and there are about 200 people doing that work in January of 2025, and there are about 40 in the Pentagon now. So that was gutted. They've been taken out of CENTCOM, they've been taken out of AFRICOM, places like that, and the Central Command commander has actually dipped into his own budget to bring some of those people back, as opposed to being paid from the DoD budget.
Yeah. Well, another person out of a job of late, of course, is the Army Chief of Staff, General Randy George, was fired by Hegseth. On our show yesterday, we talked to retired Admiral Mark Montgomery, who said, quote, "We're doing the Iranians' job for them. Completely unacceptable and unprofessional by the Secretary of Defense," end quote. What do we know about why Hegseth fired General George and the reaction inside the Pentagon?
Yeah, General George was, his days were numbered really as soon as Pete Hegseth came into office. I mean, General George had served on Mark Milley's staff, the previous chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who obviously fell out of favor with Donald Trump. And so he was kind of marked for that. He also pushed back against Hegseth more recently, taking multiple African-American officers and female officers off the promotion list for one-star generals. George, from my sources, tell me George had pushed back pretty hard against taking those officers off the list. And he requested several meetings with Secretary Hegseth to talk about it. Hegseth refused to speak to him. So I think George pushed that pretty hard, and that was kind of the last straw. So now Hegseth has installed, on an acting basis, his former military advisor, General Christopher Leneve, to be the acting Army Secretary. Leneve was a 2-star about 2 years ago, rapidly promoted to 4-star. He's never held really a major command. He hasn't done the things that chiefs of staff of the Army normally do. He hasn't followed that career path. So there's some folks in the Army that are unhappy about this. He's promoted very quickly. And as we've reported, he's made some decisions in the past. He hasn't been very popular among some of the officers who have served with him or under him.
As far as the Secretary's decision-making circle on these kind of questions, you have written that the circle is very small. Who's in it? Who's not in it?
I mean, normally the Secretary of Defense has a pretty wide circle of advisors, right? Civilian and military. Hegseth has really necked that down to a very, very small group of probably 3 or 4 people. One of them was his former sergeant in Iraq. There's some folks who he's known for a few years before he went into government, but they don't have a lot of government experience. So his team is not incredibly experienced at this level of management and this level of intensity. And you can kind of see it with some of the flubs that they've made over the past year.
There are Hegseth's actions, and there are also his words. He has called wartime rules of engagement stupid, And he's also actively invoked his evangelical Christian faith. Yesterday, he said this about the rescue of the American airman who was trapped and hiding inside Iran.
Flown out of Iran as the sun was rising on Easter Sunday. A pilot reborn, all home and accounted for, a nation rejoicing. God is good.
Can you talk, Paul, about Hegseth's overt religious words and actions and the reaction to it in the military?
Yeah, he has leaned into his faith and been more overt about his faith over the past probably 3 or 4 months, really. I mean, it was always there. I mean, he's a practicing Christian. He takes his faith seriously. But he's been holding monthly prayer meetings at the Pentagon. This year he held a Protestant prayer meeting, but no Catholic prayer meeting, or service, which they normally do at the Pentagon. And he's really talked quite a bit about his faith. I mean, this particular church that he belongs to in Washington, the pastor is very controversial. He's had the pastor actually speak at the Pentagon. The sect, I guess you can call it, that he belongs to doesn't believe that women should vote, right? That doesn't believe that women should work outside of the home, things like that. So it's pretty problematic when you are supposed to lead an apolitical, merit-based organization like the U.S. military, to have these views. And Hegseth hasn't expressed these views, but we can see how he's fired most officers. He's fired even women, right? He's taken women off the one-star promotion list, things like that. So he's doesn't come out and say that women should not hold these positions, but I think through his actions we can see that he's kind of blocked promotion or fired many talented, qualified female officers.
There has been, Paul, a lot of public criticism of Hegseth's leadership in general. Is his job safe?
I mean, as safe as anyone in the administration's job can be, right? I think Donald Trump does like him. He does like that Pete Hegseth is camera ready from his time at Fox News. He gets up there, he delivers the talking points succinctly, quickly, and in a way that also praises the president. So I think right now his job is safe. If the war in Iran kind of goes sideways, he could be on the chopping block because the president will need to find someone to blame, and he would be the easiest, closest person to blame for any failures.
Yeah. We've been talking to Paul McCleary. He covers the Pentagon for Politico. Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You're listening to Here and Now.
Hi, it's Steve Inskeep.
And I'm Mary Louise Kelly. You may have heard that prices for used vehicles are up. That car you've been thinking about donating to this station?
That car could be worth hundreds of dollars or even more in support.
If you don't need it, donate it. It's easy, it's free to you, and the proceeds help us bring you the news.
Learn more on this station's website.
Go to radioiq.org and click the support tab and select vehicle donation.
On the next Fresh Air, comic Jeff Ross is known as the Roast Master General. He's produced and hosted celebrity roasts and dealt out hilarious insults. In his new Netflix comedy special, he gets personal and vulnerable. We'll talk about working in his family's catering hall on weddings and bar mitzvahs, his parents, their deaths, and his own health issues. Join us.
Tune in for Fresh Air, Monday through Thursday at 2 on Radio IQ.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and Loomis Sales, committed to helping institutional and individual investors achieve their financial objectives, combining in-house research and risk management to create tailored investment strategies for every client. More at LoomisSales.com. And Olin College of Engineering, a hands-on, human-centered engineering education where the world is their workshop, offering courses like Engineering for Humanity, Designing Better Drugs, and Plastic Planet. Olin.edu.
It's Here and Now. Morning TV host Savannah Guthrie returned to NBC's Today Show yesterday after a more than 2-month absence because of a personal tragedy that gripped her fans and the nation.
Welcome to Today on this Monday morning. We are so glad you started your week with us, and it is good to be home.
Yes, it is good to have you back at home.
Well, here we go, ready or not.
Yeah.
Let's do the news.
Yes.
Savannah's mother, 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, remains missing. Nancy was abducted from her home in Tucson, Arizona 65 days ago, the very same place where she raised Savannah and her other children. Bill Goody-Coons has been following the story for the Arizona Republic, where he's a media columnist. Bill, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So many of us watched Savannah Guthrie's return to her morning show yesterday. I was struck by her yellow dress, a color that symbolizes waiting for a loved one's return, and by her co-host Jenna Bush Hager, who also wore yellow, walked arm in arm with her, almost like a bodyguard, as they greeted fans who shed tears and applauded in support. What struck you most when you watched the broadcast?
Well, I certainly noticed the yellow, too. Her co-host, Craig Melvin, had a yellow tie. There was a yellow floral arrangement behind her. So yellow was, and certainly out in the crowd, a lot of people were wearing yellow ribbons and had yellow shirts and stuff, and they noted that. But the thing that really struck me was, I think that these are really difficult shows, more difficult than people think, because they range from hard news to cooking segments with celebrity chefs, all within the space of an hour. So you really have to pivot. And I wondered about how she was going to do that. But boy, the thing that struck me was how all business she was. In that clip that you just played, she says, "Ready or not, here we go." And 2 minutes later, she was doing a pretty tough interview, updating people on the war in Iran.
What did she say about why she's back now?
She had done an interview with Hoda Kotb a week or two before she came back. And it was her first, public interview, first one that she had done that wasn't one of these videos that she had made herself, or that she didn't make herself, but she and her family had put out to try to find more information about her mom. And she said that she sort of had to go back, that she needed some sort of normalcy like that in her life. And that, like what she said yesterday, that it seems like home.
Well, Savannah's mother, Nancy Guthrie, remains missing despite pleas and rewards offered by Savannah and members of her family. No suspects have been named. Why has it been so difficult to make progress in this case?
They simply seem to have nothing. I am not a legal expert. I don't know about the quality of the investigation, but something isn't happening. They just seem to have so little information, or they can't seem to do much with the information that they have. And I think that certainly that leads to frustration, but it also leads to a lot of finger pointing, what's going on here. You can't help but wonder, like, what was something missed? Was something not looked at that should have been looked at, or given the attention that it should have been given? It's easy to second guess. I'm not an investigator, but it's just human nature to wonder.
Well, it's hard to imagine in 2026 with all the technology we have, all the tracking, hidden cameras, just all the surveillance in our society. It's hard to imagine that there have been no breaks that we know of in a crime like this. Now, the story received a ton of media attention when it happened, but like all stories, it has faded somewhat. And yet for people in Tucson, it's a major unsolved crime in your backyard. What is the mood like there now?
It's a sense of both frustration with the inability to solve the case, and that's true everywhere. That's not just in Tucson. I think that you can see, the sort of mood of anybody who has followed this story. I think that there may also be some relief, as you said, that some of the media coverage has toned down a little bit. It's not out of the spotlight, but it's not shining so directly on them anymore. I think that, I know that a lot of people in Tucson were really frustrated by that, particularly with some of the, less credible sources that were down there, just, floating out these crazy conspiracy theories or half-baked theories. Oh, we know that this happened, when in fact nobody seems to really know anything. Mm-hmm. I think that was a source of great frustration, not only for the people of Tucson, but for legitimate media as well, who, of course, have to come along behind them and debunk these things.
So last question, the sheriff of Pima County, Chris Nanos, has been accused of mishandling this investigation, and all the attention on him has stirred up some past scandals from earlier in his career. Tell us what's going on with him, and has he been able to rebuild trust with the community?
I don't believe he has. In fact, I think that the Pima County commissioners are today going to try to take some action to get him to answer some questions about whether he has misrepresented himself on his resume, about some previous suspensions and previous jobs. Of course, anybody who is at the center of an investigation like this with worldwide attention is going to get, the spotlight really trained on them and on their career. If you can't seem to solve this one, people may wonder, well, what have you been doing? And that has not really worked out very well in his favor in this case.
Bill Goody-Coons is a media columnist with the Arizona Republic. Thanks so much, Bill.
Thank you.
Here and Now is a production of NPR and WBUR. I'm Indira Lakshmanan in Boston.
And I'm Scott Tong in Washington, D.C. It's Here and Now.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the Mehrotra Institute at Boston University, hosting the Is Business Broken podcast, featuring conversations with academics, industry leaders, and politicians. More at ibms.bu.edu.
Radio IQ and WVTF Music are in the process of upgrading our digital donation systems. So the online donation form on our website and mobile app will be temporarily paused starting on April 1st. If you want to become a member or make a donation during this period, please call our business offices at 1-800-856-8900 and select option 1. Thank you for listening and supporting public radio across Virginia.
Connect with Radio IQ on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and we'll keep you up to date on the latest ticket giveaways, special programming, and more. You can also visit us and stream live at radioiq.org.
You're listening to Radio IQ on WVTF Roanoke, WRIQ Charles City, Richmond, WVTU Charlottesville, WVTW Charlottesville, WVTR Marion, WISE FM Wise, WQIQ Spotsylvania, WIUR Lexington, WEHC Emory, HD3 of WURV Richmond, and on 92.5 Richmond and 94.9 Fredericksburg. Radio IQ, a listener-supported community service of Virginia Tech, on your smart speaker and online at radioiq.org.
Fresh Air with Terry Gross is underwritten by the Davis H. Elliott.
Good afternoon. I invite all who so desire to stand for a moment of silence and to remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon and welcome to our meeting for April the 7th, 2026. Regular meetings are held on the second and fourth Tuesday at 2 p.m. Regular public hearings are held at 6 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday of each month. Deviations from this schedule will be announced. The meetings are broadcast live on RVTV, Channel 3, and will be rebroadcast on Friday at 7 p.m. and on Sunday from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Board of Supervisor meetings can also be viewed online through Roanoke County's website at www.roanokecountyva.gov. Individuals who require assistance or special arrangements to participate in or attend Board of Supervisor meetings should contact the clerk of the board at 540-772-2005 at least 48 hours in advance. Please turn all cell phones off or place them on silent. Item A, opening ceremonies, roll call. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Here.
Mrs. Hooker? Here. Mr. North?
Here.
Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Here. Item B, request to postpone, add to, or change the order of the agenda items. Are there any requests to postpone, add to, or change the order of the agenda, fellow board members? Mr. Kaywood?
No changes, Madam Chair.
Mr. Lubeck?
No changes.
Thank you. Item C, new business. Resolution approving the Roanoke Valley Resource Authority, RVRA, budget for fiscal year 2026-2027. John Lanford, CEO of RVRA. Mr. Lanford.
Madam Chair, it's a pleasure to be with you and the rest of the board today. I'd like to take a minute and just recognize
Our Resource Authority board members representing Roanoke County. Doug Blunt, recently elected chair to term. Lori Gerhardt serves as our treasurer. Ashley King has been a new appointee to the board and a tremendous asset and a wonderful pleasure to have in our board meetings. She brings a ton of energy, and we love having her there. And then Todd Simmons and Steve Bandy representing the Bradshaw Road area. With me today, I have Brad Brewer and Nancy Duvall from our team. Brad is our Director of Finance, and Nancy's our business manager. Many of you remember her, I'm sure, from her time here at Roanoke County. I'd also like to recognize them for, we just recently received notification, GFOA, Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting. And so Brad and Nancy are a critical part of that, along with your team here, who provide a tremendous support. Lori Gerhardt, Jessica Beamer, Paul Workman, and Robin Shelton, and many others, I'm sure, that behind the scenes are doing a lot of good work helping us with that. So thank you for the support to the Resource Authority. One thing I'm sure many of you are aware, and a little PSA before I get into the budget specific, recently we had a fire at our Smith Gap facility, fairly substantial, started off maybe the size of a small paint can. We believe it was started by a lithium battery. Right. Luckily, our crews were notified fairly early, able to fight the fire and extinguish it before it did any damage. But if you go backwards in that whole scenario, that started off at somebody's, probably more than likely, in somebody's container at their home. That same fire could have occurred there. So we would just end all the way down, right? So your crews are out there picking up that material. It could have happened on the road. So we just encourage people to be conscious about what they're disposing of, and also think of the fact that luckily for us it happened there and we were ready and available, but it very easily could have happened in somebody's home or business. With that, I'll believe you all have a copy of the budget. I'll touch on it very quickly and then be happy to answer any questions you may have. Our fiscal 27 budget, as presented and approved by the Resource Authority Board, totals $19,824,759. That is a 3.7% increase, or $708,025 from fiscal 26. The proposed budget also includes a $1.75 per ton increase in municipal tipping fees and a $2 per ton on commercial and private tipping fees, bringing them respectively to $59.75 per ton, $71.50 per ton. The impact to the county for their budget from that increase is $64,750 above your fiscal 26 contribution. While those increases sound substantial in total, that increase generates less than $200,000 in additional revenue for the Resource Authority. We do have revenues from the renewable natural gas project that we have begun to receive, and then we have gone out and solicited some contracted municipal waste from those outside of our service area, well within our capacity. And so in picking up that additional tonnage, you will note that there is approximately $279,600 increase in revenues from the contracted municipal waste that we have. There's some substantial savings on the operational side, and that's a result of negotiation of a new hauling contract. We issued RFP earlier this year to renegotiate with our existing hauler. As part of that, we were able to dispose of surplus property, eliminate the need to replace approximately 50 trailers at almost $175,000 a trailer going forward. They're now part of the contractor's responsibility to provide, and also by doing so, we increased some competition, came in with some favorable pricing, and actually lower haul rates from the contractor by doing so, and that has resulted in $359,000 savings on the waste side and $122,000 savings on the water side as we haul our leachate back from Smith Gap to Salem to be treated by the Western Virginia Water Authority. One of the things we have in this proposed budget, historically, the Resource Authority has engineered and built each cell individually. We have been discussing for the last year and a half or so the concept of preparing to engineering and construction for the remaining 2 cells in our existing Part A area, Part B area at Smith Gap, and included in this budget is engineering costs to do both cells 8 and 9. It was a $900,000 effort to do engineering for cell 8 alone. In total for cells 8 and 9, it was $1.1 million. We thought the investment in the additional $200,000 to do that work at one time made sense instead of waiting another 4 or 5 years and having approximately $900,000 to $1 million expenditure for cell 9. We think in total we'll be able to save approximately $4 to $5 million if we are able to construct both cells at the same time. And we've engaged Ann Shaver, who I'm sure many of you may be familiar with, to help us do some financial forecasting to look at how we may be able to do that and if it may be cash funded versus a combination of cash and debt to realize that $4 to $5 million savings over the life of those facilities. 2 years ago when I was in front of you, we had no funding for CIP or our proposed equipment replacement schedule. That's fully funded in the proposed budget to move forward with those, and we are making adequate contributions to our reserves to also fund closure at this point in time, which had been a deferred expense for our cells that are no longer in use. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
So thank you for being here. And I appreciate your good work. I've heard good things about your leadership, and I appreciate your service. Just a couple of questions. I guess I'm looking for some clarification, and one is on the hauling of wastewater from the landfill and sewer costs, because I know at one time that there was discussion, and I'm just curious where we are with that, with sewer versus hauling.
So we continue to have those conversations. That would be, we haul back from Smith Gap to Salem, treated currently by the Western Virginia Water Authority. We have discussed with the folks in Montgomery County the concept of being able to construct a force main and discharge to their sanitary sewer systems. There's some transitions that are occurring with the service authority and how the utilities are managed in Montgomery County that have, through no one's fault, just slowed those conversations down. But we continue to have those and explore them. We think that we could be much more cost effective if we were able to build a pump station, pump to their sanitary sewer, and have it treated there.
So in Montgomery County?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. And so the water, you do have water authority water there now?
We're on a well system.
On a well system, okay.
Yes,
so I saw something about water expenses. Let me see if I can, water service transfer station. So, and it was 28,000. So help me understand that budget item.
May I ask which page you're looking at?
I'm looking at 18, page 18.
So at our Tinker Creek and Salem transfer stations, they are publicly connected, and so that's our utility cost for those facilities.
Of course. Awesome. I noticed that there was a decrease in revenues from mulch, so people are just not buying it as much, or it's not as much available, or all the above.
We have, through the good work of Mr. Brewer, we've taken a deeper dive into our budget over the last few years and made some adjustments to try to reflect what our actuals are year over year.
Okay.
And so we're tracking those numbers a little bit better now.
Understood. And recycling, speak to that if you would. I see it's decreasing.
Yeah. We have facilities set up there for folks to dispose of their recycling, and it's just, it's something that we don't see a great volume of coming through.
Okay.
And so again, it's something that we have tried to right-size in the budget over
Understood.
the last few years.
Understood, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I think that's all I have for now.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. A couple of questions, John. Number one, what's the number of years left in the landfill, the current landfill today?
We anticipate 40 plus or minus, and I give a round number because some of that is some of that's very detailed engineering, and in that detailed engineering space, we have approximately 20 years left.
Right.
We'll have to go through a permitting process for our Part A permitted area, which is not detailed, and we anticipate approximately 20 plus or minus years once we get that detailed engineering done. So possibly up to 50, possibly in the mid-30s.
I don't think any of us on this board are going to be around that time, probably. Well, at least sitting here at the dais.
And that also, I would also just mention, that doesn't preclude us from moving away from Smith Gap, but as technology changes, there may be a different form of managing waste.
Secondly, currently, are you incurring any extra fuel surcharges in transportation, or did the contract you renegotiate fix the cost?
It's based off of the rack prices, but it's on a quarterly. So as we came out of March, we anticipate at the June quarter, we will start to see those.
Okay, that's all. Thank you very much, John.
Yeah, John, I'm on page 4, tipping fees, and I see you have different fees broken down in the different jurisdictions. What's the difference between municipal waste and wood waste? How do y'all distinguish the two?
So the wood waste is primarily going to be, well, I was getting ready to answer the question then. So the wood waste, you all collect in bulk, right? And you all may bring in a vehicle that is completely full of nothing but woody debris in your vehicles. That would be classified as wood waste. If you brought that same vehicle in and it had intermingled waste, so went out for bulk, picked up 95% wood, and somebody had couch or whatever it might be out there, then that becomes municipal waste and is put on the transfer station floor. All wood waste comes through our Tinker facility, and if you've been there, you've seen the mulching operation. And so if a citizen comes in and they have yard debris or whatever it might be, that's classified as wood waste, and it's distinguished as it comes across the scales.
Okay. So in the land development world, where we dig up trees and we got stumps, is anybody using the landfill for that, or are excavators still taking it over to the Bandy landfill, or do you even know?
Yeah, a majority, we're seeing that material. I don't know if we're seeing all of the material from the former Bandy County Waste Facility, but a lot of wood waste comes through our facility from
Okay, so
land clearing
nobody's
activities.
using Bandy anymore?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we hear from time to time that they may be open, but we're not aware that they're operating all the time.
Well, and so is it charged a different rate?
The wood waste?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's where I saw the $59.75 versus $40 per ton.
Yeah, so all wood, if it's clean wood waste that comes in, it's the $40 per ton.
So when you get clean stumps in, are you burying them, or are you back to the recycling?
They're ground.
They're ground.
And that's the mulch.
Yeah, and that's the mulch.
Cool.
It's free for folks to come and pick up.
Okay.
We also use it we haul a tractor trailer load of it to our landfill, and we have a contract with a company out of Franklin. We issued it, and they buy a portion of it.
Okay. How about, are you recycling asphalt and concrete? Are you able to do that?
We are not. So if somebody brings in, we don't see much asphalt waste come in.
Okay.
But if we see contract, that's typically direct haul to Smith Gap. And we'll divert that waste and it's placed in the landfill.
Okay. Okay. Very
And we've
good.
begun, as you mentioned that, in the recycling effort, we've begun diverting quite a bit of our food. We used to see quite a bit of food waste come in, and that's being diverted to Star City Compost, which is just up the road from us on 460, as we can.
Okay. So land developers can take their stumps to either tipping station?
Tinker only.
Tinker only, okay. All right, very good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I have like 3 questions, but preliminarily, I think, John, I just want to say you and your staff, I think, are doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
This was a headache creating it, but I think it has been very successful, and I think the long-range plan that you and your staff have is perfect. One of the elements that excites me, and I give credit to John and his staff, the additional revenue for I guess the natural gas that you've been able to generate, over 800,000. Kind of talk about that, because I think that's
Exciting.
for our citizens. I think that's really good information to show that we're not just dumping trash someplace. There's also a positive element that comes out of that. So I think for the benefit of maybe our citizens watching, because you kind of talk a little bit about that, because I think that's an excellent initiative that you guys have undertaken.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And Jeremy Garrett, who usually joins me, is at a conference for SWANA this week, and so he's unable to be here. But he led that charge, and he deserves the credit, and the board of directors at the time as well. But it's taking the methane gas that has historically been wasted to the environment through a flare system there. So operationally, was an expense for us to maintain and run the flare. Worked with a company, Archaea, acquired by BP after the contract was initiated, to collect the methane gas, build a physical plant, which is in process at Smith Gap, and convert that methane into renewable natural gas that is then reintroduced back into the energy market. All of that work, all the investment that's done at Smith Gap is 100% Archaea BP investment. They took over some of our operational costs, which reduced some of the strain of our budget. And then we are currently receiving $826,000 and somewhere around that number in revenues from them for that converted gas. So it's taken what was environmentally and operationally a challenge for the Resource Authority, captured it, and reintroducing it into the market. So,
and I think that saves money for the county, the city, Salem, Vinton, and our citizens, and I think that's great. My second question, I guess, is on page 3, when you list under revenues the various tonnages for the localities, and then the commercial, and then the contracted. Do you have any concerns going forward? From what I understand, that contracted or commercial work is very competitive, and people try to find other places to go. Who are your competitors, and could those folks, in reaction to maybe an increase in the tonnage fee, could they go someplace else? Or do you see that as either a short-term or long-term concern?
It is a concern, and we have to remain competitive, but geographically speaking. For us, it's New River Resource Authority, and also Region 2000 in the Lynchburg area. But geographically speaking, we're competitive with them, although we operate in a somewhat different manner. Our rates are going to be higher than their rates are, because they're all direct haul to their facilities at their landfills, where we're taking all the waste through transfer stations and have very limited direct haul to our facility. So our operational costs, by virtue of that, are going to be higher, because we're operating 3 facilities and managing the contract hauling of that waste, whereas they're allowing their citizens and their haulers to bring it directly to their facility. But it's something we're cognizant of. It's also something that if you come to our facility, having spent 25 years in local government, I touched solid waste, but it wasn't something I touched every day. Being in this role, one of the first things I saw was how many different sectors of the population and the economy we touch every day. So we're cognizant of it from the economic impact that our rate can have, but also recognizing, had a chance to follow John Hull yesterday at the city council meeting on his presentation, and just touched on the fact that, you know, what your folks are doing in the field, what our folks are doing in the field, and the importance of the industry to do it well makes John's job easier, right? If we're not handling the waste in an environmentally conscious manner and doing a good job of that, then the recruitment has an impact as well. So there's the cost factor and then the benefit to the community as a whole is doing a good job of managing the waste.
See, I thought back in the day there was a competitor that was someplace east of Lynchburg that folks were hauling it to, and in effect, you had to compete with them.
Right. The Waste Management has facilities in Amelia in that direction, and there were several in the area that were independently operating transfer stations and hauling there. Yeah, that's not in today's operational method. That's not a concern for us from that type of competition.
My final question, I guess, is in your report, your annual review for the various reserve funds, it jumped out at me. You're kind of waving a warning flag that your equipment reserve fund is deemed inadequate, your capital improvement reserve fund is deemed inadequate, both for short-term and long-term. And I guess seeing the issues that we struggle with on our CIP long-term, how do you want to address the warning that you're giving us? Because that looks pretty clear to me that there may be some additional costs going forward to try to fund these various reserve funds.
Sure. I think it's just part of it is the nature of the beast, where inflation has outpaced probably our ability to plan for it. If you look at any rolling apparatus, fire rescue, we're heavy on iron in our industry as well. And so, you know, the cost of that equipment in a very short period of time has escalated significantly. And so when you look to plan out, you know, it's difficult to do it on the same model we had been doing it on. And that's part of the reason why we've engaged Dan Shawver to help us with the financial forecasting. So instead of coming to you all every year, hopefully when I come to you all next year, I'll show you where we need to be 5 and 10 years from now with the rates to adequately fund those future expenses. Right now, we're just doing it on a year-over-year basis, which I think is what most people have historically done. And we're going to try to get out in front of that and show you where we need to be. And it probably ends up coming down to. I think Mr. Radford and I talked about the first year I was here. We continually look at each time we replace a piece of equipment, whether or not we want to cash fund it or whether or not we want to potentially enter into some type of lease to purchase, and we compare the two and make a decision. So taking that a step further, there may be a time where we're not in a position to fully cash fund and you're looking to cash debt fund CIP, equipment, other investments in site development at Smith Gap. But it's something we're cognizant of and trying to plan for.
I just figure if something breaks, a piece of equipment breaks, you got to fix it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I just have one quick question, and this is more, and my fellow board members may already know the answer to this, but looking at the revenue, it went for sale of recyclable materials from $68,000 to $125,000 down to $50,000 over the last several years. And I hear all the time from citizens that they love recycling, my husband being one of them. But I also hear that the money that we get from that has significantly dropped, which that shows here. Can you speak as to that so citizens can understand why the income from that is dropping? And
yeah, part of it is us looking to right size, and as Ms. Hooker and I were chatting about earlier, is looking at some of our historic numbers in our budget and more accurately reflecting what we are seeing year over year. And then part of it is just in general the economy, and recycling is a commodity based economy, and when it's profitable the folks in the recycling business are recycling. And when the commodity doesn't have the value it needs to have for them to be profitable, that commodity may not be recycled at the same rate. And so I think you'll see fluctuations in that, as the economy changes, as things change year over year on recycling in general. But part of our budgeting process is we've taken a hard look, especially the last 2 years, and tried to better reflect what our true numbers are in the budget instead of necessarily just carrying forward numbers from prior budget years. And that's the good work of Brad Brewer doing that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Lanford?
No question.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution approving the Roanoke Valley Resource Authority budget for fiscal year 26-27.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Lanford.
you.
See you next year.
Item 2, resolution approving the Roanoke Regional Airport Commission budget for fiscal year 26-27. Mike Stewart, Executive Director of the Roanoke Regional Airport Commission. Mr. Stewart?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Supervisors, esteemed staff. It's always a pleasure to come before you and tell you I don't want your money. As you know, the airport is self-sufficient, and it is in accordance with the amended and restated contract dated July the 1st, 2020, between the Roanoke Regional Airport Commission and the participating political subdivisions. The Commission hereby submits its fiscal year 2027 operating budget for approval. This budget was adopted by the Commission at its meeting on March the 24th, 2026. And additionally, there's a separate listing of capital expenditures planned in fiscal year 27 that are expected to exceed $100,000 in costs and are intended to benefit for 5 or more future accounting periods. It's a pleasure to report that the Roanoke-Blacksburg Airport is enjoying a very good, strong year in 2026. And you'll note that no deficit is anticipated in the operating budget for fiscal year 27. Therefore, no additional appropriations are being requested from the county, the city of Roanoke, or the city of Salem. And we're going to seek your approval on the budget anyway, just so that you can confirm that you don't want any money. And we do anticipate another strong year. As you know, we are cost recovery, so we're using our fiscal year 26 actual revenues of $17.5 million as the basis for our fiscal year 27 revenue. We see the strong year continuing. The operating expenses are expected to increase like they are everywhere, but the higher revenue is expected to produce a net operating income of slightly over $3 million, and that actually allows us to decrease our landing fees, which is hopefully makes ROA more attractive to the airlines and with other users. That's actually one of those things that you like to see aviation revenues decrease instead of going up in our business. We want to use all of our other sources of revenue, like our concessions, our parking, our vacant land that we don't need for aviation. Those are the sources of revenue we want to see increase. And we're going to bring that cost of the airlines down as close to zero as we can make it. Makes them more profitable, makes them more likely to serve our region. The fiscal year 27 capital program is expected to be approximately $38.3 million. Largely involves projects related to the rehabilitation of our primary runway 624, terminal improvements, rental car return and ready lot, and obstruction removal, which just basically means we've got to do a study every few years for obstructions to our pathways in and out of the airport, and if the trees are too tall, we need to cut them down. So those are the capital expenditures we'll use there. I'd also like to briefly touch on the strong past year we have enjoyed. Last year, I was happy to come in and tell you that ROA set a new record in 2024 for total passengers served. I'm more happy to tell you that we blew that record away this year, and we set another record in 2025, serving over 827,000 passengers.
Wow.
We continue to improve the customer experience. We completed the renovations on our parking lots, rolled out a new website and branding, as you can see, and we appreciate your support always. We've introduced the Sunflower Program, which is a global effort to enhance support for travelers with hidden disabilities that don't want to tell you about them or that just that don't visibly show a disability. We grew our pet therapy or our comfort dog program to 3 teams, And if you haven't met Trooper Scout and Lucy, you ought to come out. They've been a huge hit. We also continued our community engagement, raising over $73,000 for Special Olympics Virginia athletes at our second annual Southwest Virginia Playing Pool. And I really think the Board of Supervisors and a few of your friends ought to come out on September 26th and participate in the third annual Playing Pool for Special Olympics. And our wonderful ambassador program, the Airport Ambassadors, logged 2,000 hours providing a warm welcome to air travelers and answering questions for visitors at the airport. Operational excellence is always front of mind for our staff, and as you know, last September we had an aircraft that overran the runway a little bit and went into our EMAS, the Engineered Material Arresting System, at the end of runway 34. It did its job and it prevented injury, death, and damage, and probably stopped it from coming into the county, because it was just about 150 feet from Peters Creek Road at the point that it stopped. Thanks to the tremendous efforts of our staff at the airport as well as our contracted partners, that EMAS was actually repaired and put back to full capability by December. So 3 months to turn it around is a pretty remarkable thing, especially in the wintertime. We're currently resurfacing the eastern end of Taxiway Bravo, which parallels runway 624, and we're designing next year's renovations on runway 624 itself. And then little good news, which I can share with you in a hard copy if you'd like, but the Virginia Department of Aviation results from their latest study of the Commonwealth's Airports Economic Impact Study are in. And ROA's total output was calculated to be about $613 million to our region and the Commonwealth. That's up over 20% from the previous study that was done in 2018. And it shows that the airport is supporting approximately 3,200 jobs in the region. Airlines continue to increase capacity through increased frequency and larger aircraft. As you know, Allegiant operated additional flights last year to Sanford and St. Pete, in addition to having a full year of Sarasota. Unfortunately, the community has not supported Sarasota as well as Allegiant had hoped, and they have discontinued it starting in May. We hope that it'll come back possibly in the spring of the following year, but no guarantees given the airline industry and where fuel prices and other things are. But I just came back from Las Vegas last week, meeting with Allegiant at their headquarters. And although disappointed with Sarasota results, they remain very happy with the Sanford, Orlando, and the St. Pete traffic. And they won't be adding the additional sections this year, but that's not a reflection of our market. It's a reflection of fuel prices and other costs for them. So they continue to be very pleased with us. We talked to them about a number of other Florida destinations. I would tell you that right now they're probably most interested in Fort Lauderdale if they could find an airplane and the method to do it, but that's probably the next thing that would be on their radar as far as what they're interested in. And as I shared with the chair, we also talked to them about Myrtle Beach as a strong possibility to pull traffic off the road and fly them down there. So we'll see how that pans out and how it plays to them. Delta also added additional Atlanta capacity. United added both Chicago and IAD. We're seeing the benefit of United and American kind of battling over Chicago again, which they haven't done in a number of years. But as a result, American added a new destination of Chicago O'Hare last year, and it's doing fairly well for them. They also added a second Philadelphia. And of course, we're looking forward to the new nonstop Dallas-Fort Worth starting June the 5th. Actually, it'll come in on the 4th. We appreciate the county's support, the Board of Supervisors' support on that flight. We have signed a minimum revenue guarantee with American, and we appreciate the county's support. Working through that now, and I'll get with Mr. Kaywood and work out details as we kind of get that set up. And that Dallas hub, although it's one time a day right now, 70% of our traffic going to the Dallas region out of this area is driving somewhere, getting on an airplane somewhere at another airport. If we can get most of those folks back, that'll be a dramatic increase for us. That helps us. Our employments and our activity is how we fund most of the projects that we do. So the more people that fly our way, the better off we're going to be in being able to make improvements to the airport going forward. Hence our current program of Fly for the Future, and hope you all get to wear your pins proudly and support us by flying in and out of ROA. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Go
I'll
ahead,
start
Mr.
off on this end. Yeah. Mike, National Association of Home Builders did a 10-year contract with Las Vegas. We used to do every 2 or 3 years between Orlando and Las Vegas. I do know more of us go to Las Vegas than we go to Orlando. So we won't be flying allegiance to Stanford. That's what we always do. Go there on a Monday, come back on a Friday. So that's probably going to drop off in the next 10 years, that 1 week in late January, February. But a lot of us go to Vegas because it gives us access to the Rocky Mountains and other stuff. So we spend a lot of more time out there than we do. So I just want to make sure you know that there's going to be a lot.
I appreciate that.
They'll come through the airport that will fly out. I know we have a lot of tech people that are in that technology, building, construction, and we usually see them on the planes. And we also have a lot from Franklin County, Bedford County, Montgomery County that come through. And so just kind of let you know.
I don't know if it'll be enough to get them to put a flight into Las Vegas for you, but I'm certainly going to give it a shot.
Well, if you just get them to Denver.
I would love Las Vegas.
We keep working that one too. So.
Yeah, just get them to Denver, and then we'll get over there to Vegas.
Why do you want to go to Denver? You want to tell us about that?
You know, just found out I'm going to have another grandchild, granddaughter.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So I just am curious about the private planes and use of the runway. How does that work? Is that a profitable partnership for ROA, or is it just something that is tolerated to help those private planes?
We don't rely really on the general aviation traffic for the landing fees. The airfield is basically 100% compensatory, so we recover all the costs we get. Most of that comes from the commercial carriers and other users. We don't charge a landing fee to our locally based general aviation airplanes, but we do charge it to the transients that are coming through. So any corporate aircraft that come in from somewhere else, we would charge a landing fee to them, and that's collected by Signature Flight Support and then reported to us separately.
So if they're based here, there's no landing fee?
Right now, we're
but if
giving them a
they're-
break.
Interesting. Thank you.
It makes a healthy aviation atmosphere to help have a good growth,
Agreed.
strong general aviation.
Agreed. Thank you.
Yep. So we didn't get any money from the state of Virginia?
No, we didn't.
Not a penny, not a dollar, nothing. We continue to support those efforts, and I know that you're now looking to the friends in Washington. And boy, if that can be pulled off and you get the money that you're seeking, the $44 million and the $7 million for the runway improvements, but also for the study, as well as the terminal improvements, that'll be a big home run. So we wish you well.
Thank you.
I think I can speak for the rest of the board that I don't see us objecting to any additional funding from any federal government source or state source for that matter. So just keep on chipping away at it. Maybe we'll get it.
We keep trying. I appreciate your support.
So next question is just a logistics question. When are your offices moving?
So
this year?
we've purchased the building over at Valley Point so we can clear out our space to make way for the checkpoint. Right now, we have, part of the deal was we gave the bank until the end of June to move out. So it's somewhere around that time frame. Since we didn't get the money from the state, we're probably not going to start the terminal project quite as quick.
Right.
So I'm not pushing it, but somewhere in midsummer probably.
Very good. It was a good report. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, just a comment. If we look at page 81 of our agenda, it has a wonderful pie chart that shows the various sources of revenue. And I think for probably most of our citizens who might be watching us on cable television, it'll be a surprise that over 30% of the revenue, it comes from parking. And as Mike mentioned earlier, you want the charge or the fee to the airlines to be as low as possible. Absolutely. So that they'll come here. Yep. But I think for most of our citizens, most of the citizens would probably think, oh, gee whiz, the airlines pay for that. And they really don't. So I really like the pie chart that it shows the parking and the rental.
We spend a lot of time educating it, and part of it is educating them that I don't fly airplanes, I don't deliver bags to the claim area. But it is a good challenge to have, and we enjoy educating everybody. Thank you.
Whenever I go by, the parking lot is always full. I know. It's always full, which is good.
It is. Thank you.
Thank you.
We already had the opportunity to talk, but you keep working on Myrtle Beach and Vegas.
You got it. You got it.
Those are very important to me.
We can do that. And I would like to take one thing that I didn't do. I'd like to recognize Gary Powers, one of our county-appointed commissioners, is here with me today. And David Jevons is our Director of Finance and the keeper of the Ouija board that puts all these numbers together. So, thank you.
Well, thank you all for all your hard work. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Are there any other questions for Mr. Stewart? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I move the motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Stewart. Item 3, resolution setting the allocation percentage for personal property tax relief in Roanoke County for the 2026 year. Jessica Beamer, Director of Finance and Management Services. Ms. Beamer.
Hi, good afternoon, members of the board. This item is to adopt a resolution to set the personal property tax relief percentage, which is an annual state requirement. As history, the Personal Property Tax Relief Act was established by the state to provide tax relief to owners on the first $20,000 of assessed value for their personal use vehicles. The tax relief block grant was capped in the 2006 tax year at $950 million, which is shared between all Virginia localities. Our share of this block grant is approximately $12.2 million. Each year, we are required to compute the amount of tax relief to allocate to each citizen's personal property tax bill. In the past 5 fiscal years, the county has been able to approve a tax relief rate higher than the historical model calculator recommends by using real-time trial run data to ensure that we are giving our citizens maximum tax relief. Based on this model currently being used to allocate this tax relief, we recommend approving the resolution before you, which sets the personal property tax relief percentage at 44.89% for calendar year 2026.
Are there any questions for Ms. Beamer? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Beamer.
See, we're eliminating the personal property tax. I'm being sarcastic.
Don't confuse people.
I understand.
Item 4, resolution authorizing economic development incentive agreements with 1, the County of Roanoke, the Roanoke County Economic Development Authority, and Elbit Systems of America, Night Vision LLC, and 2, the County of Roanoke, the Virginia Economic Development Partnership Authority, the Roanoke County Economic Development Authority, and Elbit Systems of America, Night Vision LLC. Megan Baker, Director of Economic Development.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. I am pleased to present performance agreements supporting the expansion of one of our existing businesses, Elbit Systems of America, Night Vision LLC. See? Yeah, that's good. Okay. So Elbit manufactures night vision technology for the U.S. military and defense partners. They are undergoing a significant expansion to meet increasing demand for these products. $30.2 million in upgrading their machinery and tools, equipment. They are also creating 288 jobs with an average salary of $68,000. So I'll be presenting 2 performance agreements, one at the local level and one at the state level. So the local level is with the Board of Supervisors, the Economic Development Authority, and Elbit, and then the state level is those partners and the Commonwealth of Virginia. So the local incentive agreement, up to $1.2 million in incentives, 80% tied to capital investment, 20% tied to job creation, and that's reimbursement of net new taxes. They must meet the cumulative investment and job thresholds of 80% in years 1 through 4 and 95% in years 5 and 6. And this aligns with the Commonwealth's incentive package. State incentive agreement, the state is offered support in at the level of 1.8 million across 3 programs. Most significant is the Commonwealth Opportunity Fund, which is 1.2 million, the Virginia Jobs Investment Program, which is 288,000, and that's reimbursement of jobs as they create the jobs. The Virginia Investment Performance Grant, 300,000, so once they meet those targets, they're also eligible for that program. And so our incentive agreement very much aligns with the Commonwealth's agreement. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Baker?
Comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I especially like this, these agreements, especially the local agreement, and that you're tying it to the jobs.
Yes.
You know, this is 300, almost 300 jobs, good
Yes.
paying jobs. And for those naysayers in the Roanoke Valley that say we don't have economic development, I hope they're listening and they see this. And I'll also comment in my comments about something else tied to this in terms of smart scale and transportation funding, but this is a good package. I hope in the future when we have large opportunities, especially with new employees that will work there or any place else, that we tie them to the same type of stair-step incentives to make sure we get those folks that we hope to get. Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else? No? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Baker. Item D, public hearing and adoption of resolutions. 1, public hearing for citizen comments on the following items: calendar year 2026 real estate, personal property, and machinery and tools tax rates. Steve Elliott, Budget Administrator. Mr. Elliott?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. This item is to conduct a public hearing to receive citizen comments on the calendar year 2026 real estate, personal property, and machinery and tools tax rates. State code requires a public hearing to be held in advance of the adoption of tax rates. This public hearing satisfies this requirement. Staff recommends conducting the public hearing to satisfy the state code requirements and receive citizen comment on the calendar year 2026 real estate, personal property, and machinery and tools tax rates.
Are there any questions for Mr. Elliott? Okay, I would like to open the public hearing. We appreciate all who have come to address the board today. When your name is called, please come forward and state your name and address prior to sharing your comments. Each person is permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes. At the front of the podium is a light system that tells you how much time you have remaining. When the light changes from green to yellow, please share any concluding remarks. When the light changes from yellow to red, your time has ended. While the board desires to hear from all who desire to speak, we ask that speakers refrain from repeating comments already made by others. Our first speaker is Mr. Scott Dreyer.
Hello, honored members of the Board of Supervisors and Chairperson, Chairwoman. My name is Scott Dreyer, local business owner and resident of 4015 Blandfield Drive in Vinton since 2014. Thank you for this opportunity to address you today. My topic is the real estate tax rate assessments, which went way up. Seeking to follow protocol and respect, I called our Vinton supervisor and we had a friendly and fruitful conversation as soon as we got the new numbers in the mail. We all understand real estate values keep going up, partially due to appreciation and partly due to inflation. But by keeping the rate of $3 per $100 of value unchanged, the actual taxes go up by the increase in the assessments, which for 2026 was an average of 6.72%. That's a lot. We all want Roanoke County to be successful. We want key services to be provided by professionals who are well paid and respected. We want to keep the county affordable and attractive. We also want to keep the county affordable, and the tax rate is one thing you can do to control that. The county has cut the rate before, as I recall, 3 cents per $100 a few years ago, and then 1 cent later, and all went well. Services were maintained, and the county kept growing. That's why I respectfully ask you to cut the rate again. All 5 of you are Republicans because Roanoke County is a heavily Republican voting county, especially Vinton, where I come from. Part of the Republican creed is lower taxes and leaner, responsive government. We're thankful that our rate is lower than that in Roanoke City, where they're also cutting services and school staff. But our rate is higher than that of surrounding counties, and they provide basic services like paved roads, schools, public safety, libraries, et cetera. Now, again, we have the curbside trash pickup, which Mrs. Hooker pointed out to me one time, so we appreciate that. But, for example, the Bedford rate is 41 cents per $100, and Bedford still can provide basic services as well. Of course, no 2 locations are identical, but Rockingham County is similar to us in that it's a suburban/rural county surrounding an urban area, Harrisonburg in their case. Their 2025 real estate tax rate was only 64 cents per $100, so about 2/3 of that of Roanoke County. In sum, I respectfully ask you to reduce the actual rate by at least 6% to offset the 6.72% average increase in new assessments. We know you have countless demands on your money, and these are all important and many good things, but we residents have demands on our budgets as well. And residents have to meet personal budgets, and that'd be my request. Thank you, and God bless you for your service. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any other signed up to speak? Okay, at this time, I'll close the public hearing. Item 2, request to adopt the following tax rates. A, resolution setting the tax rate on real estate in the County of Roanoke for the calendar year 2026 at $1.03 per $100 assessed valuation. Is there a motion to adopt the proposed resolution setting the tax rate on real estate in the County of Roanoke for the calendar year 2026 at a rate of $1.03 per $100 of assessed valuation?
Madam Chairman, I move that we set the tax rate on real estate located in Roanoke County for the calendar year 2026 at a rate of $1.03 per $100 of assessed value.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item B, resolution setting the tax levy on personal property situate in the County of Roanoke for the calendar year 2026 at $3.40 per $100 assessed valuation. Is there a motion to adopt the proposed resolution setting the tax levy on personal property situated in Roanoke County for the calendar year 2026 at a rate of $3.40 per $100 of assessed valuation?
Yes, I propose that we adopt the proposed resolution setting the tax levy on personal property situated in Roanoke County for the calendar year 2026 at a rate of $3.40 per $100 of assessed valuation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item C, resolution setting the tax levy on a classification of personal property, machinery, and tools situated in the County of Roanoke for calendar year 2026 at $2.80 per $100 assessed valuation. Is there a motion to adopt the proposed resolution setting the tax levy on classification of personal property, machinery, and tools situated in Roanoke County for the calendar year 2026 at a rate of $2.80 per $100 of assessed valuation?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to adopt the proposed resolution setting the tax levy on classification of personal property, machinery, and tools located in Roanoke County for the calendar year 2026 at a rate of $2.80 per $100 of assessed valuation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item E, consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by one resolution in the form or forms listed below. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Does any board member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion?
No.
Is there a motion to adopt all matters on the consent agenda?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item F, citizens' comments and communications. This time has been set aside for Roanoke County citizens to address the board on matters of interest or concern. Roanoke County citizens are defined as current residents of Roanoke County. While the board desires to hear from all who desire to speak, the agenda item is limited to a duration of 30 minutes. Each individual speaker shall be afforded 3 minutes to speak. Are there any citizens wanting to address the board that have not submitted a form? Okay. Item G, reports. Is there a motion to receive the file and file the reports that have been included in the agenda under item G?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item H, reports and inquiries of board members. Mr. Mahoney?
Nothing.
Mr. Radford?
Nothing.
Mr. North?
Yeah, I've got a couple items. Participate in the VACO collective bargaining call with other representatives around the state. Impact on Roanoke County, maximum input is $48.7 million. And potentially, hopefully the governor will veto that. Numbers of $1 billion shared with the governor by the VACO representatives around the state, and that didn't include everybody as to the impact on all municipalities and county boards, including VACO and VML representatives. A discussion needs to be directed to how we're going to reply should the governor sign that bill. Because folks, I'm going to tell you one thing right now, it's a tsunami if it passes. The impact on counties and schools will be immeasurable. Secondly, we met with Dr. Smoot, our Commonwealth Transportation Board member of the Salem District, and Jeremy Holmes, the Regional Director of the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission. The purpose of the meeting was to inform Dr. Smoot that expansions and job creation efforts, like we just heard about from Ms. Baker concerning Elbit in the Plantation Road corridor and Williamson Road corridor, when scored in smart scale, do not get any points. Example, Wells Fargo recently had some growth in their job creation, and Elbit here recently. And so we don't receive any credit under the current rules of smart scale, which have been around about 10 plus years. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to roll over and say, oh, that's it, let's forget about it. We're discussing it with the VEDP. We're discussing it with the Commonwealth Transportation Board. We're discussing it with Delegate Austin, who's Chair of Transportation, and we are going to be discussing it with the Virginia County's representative as well. It's just not right for you to put 1,500 more employees on the roads of Roanoke County and not get credit for improvements in the corridor concerning Peters Creek and Williamson Road, which is one of our smart scale projects this year. So we know the reason for smart scale is to avoid politics, but it certainly makes sense to give some consideration to this measure, whether it happens in time for round 7 or in round 8 in 2 more years. Lastly, this has been a tough year in the budget. It's the first year in 3 years we haven't cut real estate rates. And I'm going to give you one of the examples why we didn't do this that most people don't know, and I think need to know. Principal and interest is 9.2% of our budget, or $26.3 million. The schools account for $17.1 million, and this is for FY27. Roanoke County accounts for $9.2 million. Now, we've got great schools. We just spent $120 million, almost $130 million, with the 3 school projects that are going on. And we're proud of those. They should have been dealt with years ago, and they weren't, but they have been now. But as you can tell, and I can tell looking at the numbers, the interest increased by $6 million when this occurred. Just the principal and interest increased $11 million. The interest alone also substantially went up. Now, you got to take a pause for the cause. And if we cut real estate 1 cent, it's $1.4 million. If we hadn't have gone to the schools and asked for help, like the schools came to us during COVID and asked for help, we wouldn't have been able to give our employees a 1% pay raise. We gave the employees, with an agreement with the schools, that our county administrator, Richard Kaywood, and their superintendents worked out to give us $3 million so we could pay our employees 3% just to keep up with inflation. So it's been a tough year. And of all the people up here, there's not a single one of us that don't want to do tax reduction, and have done so in the last 3 years for a total of 6 cents. No board in Roanoke County has done 6 cents in 3 years in the history of Roanoke County that I can go back and remember since my time here. So we were proud of that. But inflation is public enemy number 1. It's happening in every part of our county. It's happening in the schools, and it's happening in our neighbors. Franklin County looking at 7 cents real estate increase. Montgomery County looking at 5 cents real estate rate increase. We didn't cut, but we didn't go up. And I think that speaks volumes, and I hope that that can occur going forward in the future. But the warning has been sounded that we must take steps between now and next year after we put this budget away to address these challenges, i.e. in terms of capital. And I think it's one that's going to take place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Hooker?
Just a few items, Madam Chair, and I wanted to double down on that, Mr. North, on some of your commentary, because Roanoke County is unique. We do operate much more like a city in some ways than we do a county, because there is no other county that collects trash like we do, right, Ms. King? And bulk pickup and all those things, it is expensive, but it's not just the trash. When you look at the care we take with our public safety and that we try to pay them well, our fire and rescue is growing exponentially with good reason. We just don't have the volunteers that we used to. So when you call 911 in Roanoke County, it means something. You're going to have someone there and going to respond quickly. So it's not without angst on our part that we don't reduce taxes at this point, but I have to say, we deliver some really great services. And I just want to make sure that the public is aware of those differences, and Roanoke County is a great place to live. Just a couple of other things that I wanted to mention too. We had a great celebration yesterday at McAfee Knob, and we were awarded and celebrating a $6.3 million award for improving the trailhead, and it was fabulous. We're going to be able to improve the parking, safety concerns, traffic congestion, and we have outgrown our capacity with that facility. It's a national park facility. So we were so pleased to be able to get that award, and it was a great day, great celebration. And there was maybe 50, 60 people there. We hiked a short distance, had a great time, maybe a 20-minute hike, and came back from that short little experience. And there was some discussion on the way that we should take this board within, the near future and have our own little celebration there. Maybe we can get some assistance, getting there, because we don't want to take the whole day. We're very busy people, and not that nobody's not able to do it. We're all able to do it, but maybe we could do something like that. I just think it'd be great, and it's iconic. It is part of our branding, and I think it'd be a great thing to do, and we'll discuss that later. I won't put anybody on the spot right now.
If you have food, I'll be there.
I know that's the way you work. So, and
what would
then-
happen if the board members got lost, how would we replace the?
That's what they want us to do.
We will not get lost. We will not get lost.
We need to all go out on the ledge and get a picture, the
That's
five of us
right.
on the
That's
ledge.
right. Not that far. Not that far on the ledge.
Who says we're going to make it
But
this
also,
far?
to kind of wrap up on these comments too, is that I know that our staff, they are looking at our debt model, and we're looking at that seriously. Just like any other family that has budget issues, we're going to be looking at how we can, save on the expense side and be a little more conservative going forward. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I have a few items to talk about. One is I want to thank Pete Peters and the town of Benton, our entire board, as well as, I'm trying to remember who all went. Megan Baker, Mr. Kaywood, am I missing anyone? Okay, we all went and they gave us a tour through all of the development they have going on in Benton. Some of the items to note, this week they also had the grand opening for the Benton War Memorial Park, which is a multi-generational park that has a skateboarding park, a swing set and all for the people with little babies. And they have, I'm not even sure what that was in the center with the little thing. I think they can play music on it or something. But anyway.
Asked Administrator Haywood, he was over there messing
Yeah.
with it.
What was that?
I think it lets kids of all ages explore their musical abilities, and it was fantastic.
So Mr. Kaywood was trying out his musical abilities. And we also went and were able to tour the Gish Mill, which they're in the process of remodeling that. We drove by the hotel that they're building. We got out and looked at the patio at the farmer's market, and they served us lunch, and it was very hospitable, and I just really want to thank them for their hospitality and showing us everything that's going on and being as welcoming as they were. We also we were invited to the CTE, where Korean announced a large donation for that, which I'm really excited, and I think everybody else is probably excited for that as well. Also, we have an Arbor Day event announcement. Roanoke County will host its annual Arbor Day celebration on April 23rd at 3 p.m. at Mount Pleasant Library. The event will celebrate the planting of 9 new trees at Mount Pleasant Library and Roanoke County being recognized as a Tree City USA by the Arbor Day Foundation for the 28th consecutive year. It will include presentations by the Virginia Department of Forestry and the Mount Pleasant Elementary School Student Council. I am told that Smokey the Bear may also make an appearance. The event is open to the public, so please come out and join us at 3 p.m. on April 23rd at the Mount Pleasant Library. So, item I, work session. Work session with the Board of Supervisors to provide Freedom of Information FOIA training with County Attorney Peter Lubeck. Momentarily, the board will recess to the third floor for the work session. However, before doing so, I would like to move that the board go into closed session upon completion of the work session. Item J, closed meeting. I move to go into closed session pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A5 of the Code of Virginia for discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. The board will discuss potential business location or expansion in the 5 magisterial districts. Is there a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. The board will now recess to the third floor for the work session and closed session.